All right, everybody, welcome back to Bulletproof Mindset, Scotland's #1 health, fitness and entertainment podcast. 200 episodes is here. I'm going to keep this intro short because I kind of done a mini intro at the start of the episode, but I hope you enjoy today's episode. If you're new around here, for the last 200 episodes, we have released episodes every Monday and Thursday at 6 a.m. I've not missed a beat with this. I will never miss a beat with this. That is my commitment to you guys. So if you are new around here and if you haven't already kind of subscribed to us on YouTube, it's at Bulletproof Mindset. You can follow us on Instagram at Bulletproof Mindset __. And without further ado, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. It is the 12 lessons I have learned to master in my life over the last 200 episodes. So I hope you enjoy. Welcome to episode 200 of Bulletproof Mindset. Pretty crazy that we are here, or should I say I am here. And in today's episode, we're going to go over 12 different lessons from the last 200. But first things first, I do want to say, look, a massive thank you to every single person who chooses to listen to this. I don't know how many of you guys are OG listeners from back or from episode 1, but month on month, this podcast has continued to grow, and to me, that's the best measurement of success. So I can only say thank you from the bottom of my heart that you have still stuck with us throughout the 200 episodes. And here's to 200 more. I mean, we all think about. I actually remember vividly thinking about, once I've recorded 200 episodes, I'll be X, and I think there was a financial monetary point of view behind it. There was a status from I guess a popularity point of view as well, and there's just a lot of lessons in those 200 episodes that I've condensed down. I've really thought about this over the last couple of days. It's honestly been like some sort of internal therapy, because I've written down what's happened firstly over the last 200 episodes. I think just all in, what we in July, so we're just shy of 2 years. We're actually, if I kind of condense it down, it's about 20 months of podcasting consistently every single Monday and every single Thursday, showing up and releasing episodes. In fact, I'd written down, out of all the episodes that we've recorded, I totaled up the amount of minutes and seconds, and it's 13,558 minutes and 28 seconds of podcast content, which is freaking crazy. That is across 200 episodes and 225 hours of content, which is mad to think about. I feel like I've been doing this forever, but also at the same time, there's a book by Robert Greene. I don't know if it's the 48 Laws of Power or one of the other ones, but he talks, it's Mastery. And he talks about to master something, you have to put in 10,000 hours worth of work. And it just shows you how much of a newbie that I am to this game of podcasting. And it makes me excited. I must admit, I spoke about in one of the last solo episodes that I was feeling really flat recently, lack of drive, lack of motivation. But doing this exercise of internal work and really reflecting on the last 2 years or so, it's gave me a lot of fire, a lot of spark, and going, wow, I've got so much to learn, and that's so exciting to me. I never written this down as a lesson, but the whole ignorance is bliss. I think I speak about this on the podcast that will come out after this with David, but sometimes I wish I could go back to that first month of being a PT, the excitement I had, the unknown, there was zero distractions. It was just, I'm going to show up and be a good fucking PT. And over time, that's become running my own place, having my own studio, having my own podcast. So much is going on in those 200 episodes that I'm actually really excited to share this with you, because it's helped me a lot from developing my own personal self. And the lessons that I want to share with you guys it's something that I wanted to be tangible, where you can take away, and hopefully throughout today's episodes you can get a bit of insight into, well, actually I never really thought about that. So thinking back to everything that's happened over the last 2 years, I've condensed this down to 12 lessons that I think is the most important lessons that I can share with you guys through my own experience. And it's as simple as that. I don't know what to call this. I don't know if I'm going to go with the whole 12 lessons of Bulletproof Mindset or 12 lessons to master your life. I genuinely think this is, when I really look at this can allow anyone overcome the mindset challenges that they may have, but truly master and achieve the life that they want to. So I think without further ado, let's get into it. So the first lesson, which I think is, every single one of these are really important lessons, but this is definitely up there with one of the most important lessons that you can have. And that is choosing fulfillment over happiness. Now, you might think those two are one and the same, but what I've found very recently, and if I look back over the last 2 years, I had shifted, or I had started chasing fulfillment, things that gave me joy, things that made me feel like I had a sense of belonging, well-being, joy, all these sort of emotions. But particularly over the last 6 months and the last year, I started building a business and started taking on different projects that would maybe get me more money. And although that was short-term happiness, because it meant I could go on these holidays and I could do these other things and buy certain things for the studio, it kind of shifted me away from the fulfillment that I would get from these things. And chasing money and chasing status, like, we all think these are things that we want, but truthfully, it doesn't fulfill us. The meaning and the deeper value that we get from these things, it is very surface level. And to go deeper on some of these things is why we want to shift our perspective and truly look at what fulfillment is. So an example of this would be if you're choosing happiness first. Like for me, I get joy and I get happiness from gaming, for example. If I'm going to consistently choose that, that's not going to really fulfill me. I get this short-term pleasure, this short-term dopamine spike. And further on in the lessons, this will kind of tie into the kind of limitations and delayed gratification that you hear. But what does that really mean? So I'm chasing happiness in that moment because I'm playing a game that makes me feel happy. I'm watching a TV program that makes me feel happy, but it doesn't lead to action. It doesn't lead to fulfillment. However, if you chase the fulfillment side of things, so helping others with their life fitness goals and becoming stronger individuals, that has a joy, that has an element of purpose behind it, and there's a much more meaning than sitting down and watching a TV program that I don't know, I'm laughing at or I find excitement over. Now, I'm not saying that these things are inherently bad, because, like, let's be honest, I'm going to have my favourite anime shows that I watch. I'm going to play the odd game from time to time, but knowing where you can limit those sort of things is a skill that you absolutely need to work on. And with that being said, that leads very nicely on to lesson number 2, finding your purpose. Now, you hear this so much, but what I've found from a formula point of view, this was said by Tom Bellew. He has a fantastic podcast, by the way, and I don't want to just kind of reiterate what he said, but along the lines, if I kind of look at my experience on what I've found fulfills me, and then interacting with people who come on and podcast, interviewing guests, clients who are fulfilled in their life, it comes down to 3 things. The thing that they have chosen to do, it has to be kind of somewhat difficult. It can't be an easy pursuit. And you could say that pretty much about anything. But more importantly, the thing that they choose gives them more energy than they steal. And once I heard this phrase on Tom Bellew's podcast, it kind of just hit the nail on the head. That is reiterating to me that I'm doing something fulfilled. And I think I've said it many times in the podcast, where I have zero energy, I have zero motivation to kind of get up and carry on the tasks that I want to do. Yet this burning desire of discipline and fire within me will get up and do that thing. Record this podcast, for example, not kind of breaking that commitment that I will post every Monday and Thursday and have an episode release for you guys. When it comes to clients, like how I was able to do 10 sessions a day, 11, 12 sessions in some fucking crazy days. I don't know why I'd done that, but really grafting and thinking, right, how did I have the energy to do that? And it was every single session, there was like the only way I can describe it, it's like a superpower that comes on, and a switch that I can flick to go, right, here we go, showtime. And by doing that thing that gave me joy and gave me fulfillment, it gave me more energy. So they're one of the 2 things. It has to be hard. It has to give you more energy than it takes. And this was another point that was raised, that it has to serve you, but it also has to serve other people. I think there has to be an ability where you give back to humanity. If I'm being honest, it may sound cheesy, it may sound cringy, but ultimately I think it's true. I think when you look around, we are social beings. We interact with each other, we bounce, or we get more energy from bouncing ideas off each other, and it feels so freaking good to give back. And there's different ways to do that. I completely get that. And I don't know if I'm being internally biased here because the profession that I've chosen is to help others with their health and fitness goals. But ultimately, when you look at someone who's made a shit ton of money, like there is celebrities, for example, who are extremely depressed and they turn to alcohol and they turn to drugs, they turn to these other things to give them this joy, this happiness, and it ultimately leads them down a dark path. And truthfully, I think that's because they are lonely inside. They don't have this sense of community or sense of well-being. Now, this subject can go much deeper than this, but when it comes to just choosing your purpose, I think that is a recipe for success. And I'll come on to a later lesson on how you find your purpose and that, but those kind of three factors of it being kind of a hard pursuit, you getting more energy from the thing that you take, and it is serving you but also other people, I think is a good way of kind of building that framework. Right, lesson number 3, and this one hits home for me. It's a lonely road, but that's okay. And that's that last part that I added in, the that's okay part. There's something I've had to kind of work on. If I'm being truthful with you guys, I was going to write for point number 3, don't start a podcast with somebody who, if I don't start a podcast with someone that potentially could leave, but we never know the unknown. And when you're pursuing anything in life, it is going to be a lonely road. Now, I say this, that when I look back over the last 200 episodes, if I just kind of share briefly what's happened. So last 200 episodes, obviously the main one being, I started this with a co-host, with James. We became best of friends, the closest person in my life to him just leaving the podcast, right? So there's lessons to be learned in that, which will come on to a sec. My best friend since high school, we just drifted apart. We grew apart and we are no longer best friends. Someone who was the best man at my wedding no longer is kind of in my life. We'll text on the odd occasion, but that's pretty much it. So again, that was another hard hitting thing. The only kind of people that are in my life just now are, as I said, my brother, who's the closest person to me, and my wife. But that being said, it's allowed me to kind of recognise that loneliness, albeit can be seen as this negative frame of mind, it can also be a powerful way to really look within and challenge some of the things of where you went wrong. And this is where this opened up my eyes, and I've listed this as point number 3 because it's allowed me to produce so many more lessons of things that I've actually learned in my life, from things like sacrifice and negativity and all these different things. But the lonely road, it's all right for it to be lonely, and it's probably better. And this is where I'll come back to, like, I'll use the example of starting a podcast with someone else. Would I change it? If I'm being honest with myself, there is parts with me that I would have liked to just start this on my own and just go with my gut instinct that you want to start a podcast. It's your passion. It's your joy. Just start it, because then you can build it. Because here I am, like, I think it was about 180 episodes doing it with someone else, that the dynamic of the show changed. The dynamic of the show changed, which then meant I had to pivot and I had to kind of put more time, energy and effort into trying to continue this podcast and try and continue the growth of the podcast to reach other people. But in hindsight is a beautiful thing, isn't it? And we can never we can't really plan for anything. We're never really guaranteed anything in life. And the only thing we can have control over and have guarantee over is our own actions. And that's why it can be such a beautiful thing to have this period of loneliness, this period of, like, here, you need to be selfish and look after yourself. So don't be afraid to do things alone, because ultimately it's only yourself that's going to show up for you. And I say all this because, like I said, there's been those things that have happened, and it is what it is. But there's also some beauty in the things that I have in my life. That I think the only thing I could truly guarantee is having someone that I choose to spend the rest of my life with, which is Jelly, choosing my wife. And I'm not saying like I'm incredibly lonely because I don't have anyone in, but I have her, and I know she is the rock that I can stand by. But I also need to recognise that there's only so much that she can do, and I need to show up for myself first to be able to show up for her. And that's a harsh reality, folks. Like, saying that out loud, I'm like, fuck, man. And I'm never of the frame of mind that Jill would ever leave me or anything like that. I truly believe that we are soulmates and we'll be partners till the day that we die and beyond, if there is such thing. But if I don't work on myself and I don't kind of look within to be the best person who I am, then there is going to be times where I'm not going to be able to show up for her or be there for her. So the loneliness part has really brought that out in me. And right now she's in New York, and it's allowed me to reflect over the last couple of days. Is like, fuck man, I've been so caught up in my own head, and I've not been even showing up for her, and I've been fortunate enough that she's kind of held the fort down, but that's part and parcel of relationships, guys. And that's a hard thing to go into business relationships with. So that's from a partner perspective. Although me and Gillian have kind of ventured that into the business part as well. But choosing this journey or choosing the podcast of, or starting a podcast with someone else, I think in hindsight, I probably wouldn't have done it, knowing what I know now. And I should have just went with my gut, because ultimately, I said before, I think if anything, I forced James's hand to come into this podcasting. And I know he would never probably change any of it, but it kept him very distracted from his goals. And it also kept me distracted, being truthful. I have sat in my arse a lot over the last 2 years waiting for kind of James to come up to a level where I wanted him to be at, from a not even a coaching perspective, just from a podcaster, from a host perspective. And because he never had the drive to get there, there was tons of frustrations and just kind of down periods in my own life, because I'm being a bit naive and thinking, James he'll just come along. He just needs more time. He needs to work through his own stuff. Instead of kind of either pushing for it or drawing a line in the sand to say, here, look, this is something that I'm really deeply passionate about. Are you on the same path as me? Because if I'm being honest, it's going back to the previous 2 lessons, I get a lot of fulfillment out of doing this. I have a lot of purpose and drive, work ethic that comes off the back of this being my fulfilled thing that I do. And because that wasn't there for someone like James, it then meant he was showing up late, or he wouldn't do as much legwork with some of the podcast. He would fall short of some things, and that was simply because he didn't have that driving passion towards that. So as much as, yes, it's been fantastic to build a strong relationship with a brother like James, I probably would redo it over on my own. And I think I've been so afraid of being lonely that really held me back, and that was a weakness. I don't want to say weakness, but that wasn't a great trait of mine, being able to embrace the loneliness. I was too scared to. I was like, who am I to start a podcast? And here I am, 200 episodes later, that time, energy and effort that's been put into the podcast, and I wouldn't change it for the world, because it's allowed me to have the confidence to speak on camera. And when I'm interviewing guests, from the very first guest, I think was Christian, to the most recent guest with David, I'm not nervous at all. I'm excited. I love the art of the conversation and diving into someone's mindset and being selfish with the questions that I want to ask them, because ultimately I want to carry them over to my lifestyle and share them with you guys. So yeah, it's okay. It is a lonely road when you're choosing your fitness, when you're choosing your career journey, when you're choosing your life partner. Like, it can be lonely. No one can really influence your decision other than you. Or you shouldn't let anyone influence your decision other than you. I think you have to hear other perspectives for sure, but ultimately you need to kind of look within and trust your gut. Okay, lesson number 4. The only way to make a bad time worse is to have a negative outlook. So life is going to throw its shit. Life is throwing its fair shitballs at me over the last 200 episodes. Now, I've always been of the frame of mind where something bad happens. Don't get me wrong, I have my moments of being negative, being frustrated, being angry, whatever it is. But very quickly, I can bring myself to a mindset of, you know what, there's people who have it worse off than me. And sometimes I have to remind myself of that, especially over these last couple of months where I've been very flat and I've not been driven, not been motivated. And when I look within, I was in a very negative headspace. And that can be a tricky one to address. It's maybe the household that you live in. It's maybe the friend group that you have. It may be the environment that you're in the workplace, where you're constantly, it's just kind of taking me back. Some of the teams I managed a team in Edinburgh, which was one of the most negative people I've ever experienced in my life. This was people on 40k plus salaries, right? You always kind of live to the new means and you always kind of want more. But these guys had a pretty decent life, Monday to Friday work, 8 till 4, sometimes 8 till 6, whatever the shift patterns would be. And the amount of gripes and complaints and just like, it was almost like everyone had to bend over backwards for them, when realistically all they kind of done was sat, came to a job, answered a couple of phone calls and went home. Now, I'm oversimplifying that, but that negative environment I was constantly going into, because I had to be, this is where I was learning my leadership skills and how do I actually come into this workplace and motivate a team of individuals, how do I get them finding a purpose in the job that we do and all these sort of things. And there was also a ton of things that we could do to change that, but going into that environment every single day, two things could have happened to me. I could have gave into that negativity and I could have been negative myself, and I've seen that happen to other leaders, absolutely, but I never really allowed that to bleed into my environment. Why? I honestly can't tell you. I think a big part of it is the resilience that I built up in the gym, working on myself, getting stronger, changing, adding more muscle to my body, changing my body physically, going in, not being able to do an exercise and being able to work on that exercise to then being able to put weight behind that exercise. These little micro adverse situations that I exposed myself to. Now, I've not had a harsh upbringing. Mum and dad split up. Yeah, okay, I wasn't really close with mum and dad as much as I would like to be and all these sort of things, but I've always been a bit of a lone wolf and like to go after it. And I think that's why recognising the road being kind of lonely is okay, because it means you can control it. I don't want to keep rambling on about the co-host situation, but back to having a podcast with James, like we still had two different ideals we would constantly go back and forth, and we worked together. We worked really well together, actually, where we managed to make it last for a certain amount of time. But ultimately, it was always going to come to an end because we were both not aligned with the purpose and fulfillment that we had. So negativity is a cancer on us, right? There's going to be people in your life where you interact with them and it's just constant negative outlook, and it's so draining, it's so tiresome. How many times have you came away from a family situation or a friendship situation and you're like, man, I'm scunnered because all they done was sit and moan about X, Y, and Z that they can't control. I've had clients like this, and that my job as their coach and trainer is to try and help them change their perspective. But there's actually no real bit of feedback I can give you. I think there's a lot that goes into negativity. There's a lot of things that can cause it. But I think ultimately you have the power to change it. You have the power to change it in your mind. This was a running joke that me and Jill would have. I think when she was going through, she was getting paid off with a job and she was getting emotional and that. And I was like, here, Jillian, only you can change how you feel. And as cheesy and as annoying it is to hear that, it is. You've got the power in your mind, right? So you can choose your hard, I think is the catchphrase or the phrase that's said. But you can that situation's happened. You can't control it, right? To look forward, you can look forward with an open mind or you can look forward with a closed mind. And none of them might lead to any success, but I know for sure I'm going to choose the open mind path. Okay, nicely moving on to lesson number 5. Boos don't block dunks. I like this because this is kind of off the theme of negativity and how do you start to change this? And it's true. I love what this is from Kobe Bryant. The whole Mamba mentality and the whole discipline that he had to be the best at his sport is truly remarkable, and that inspired me as such a young kid. I think that's why I love basketball more than I did that old silly soccer ball or whatever you want to call it. But the lesson in this one is that you can get so good at something that you outperform the negativity, you outperform the hate, you outperform the people trying to pull you down, and hard work will get you through this. So focusing on outplaying them through the hard work and efforts that you want to put in, I think it's been something that I take a bit of pride in, if I'm being honest. When I look back at the start, some of the comments I would get from other coaches, some of the shade that was thrown my way, that I was a drug dealer and all this sort of stuff when I was building my own studio, people trying to like tarnish your name before you've even hit the ground running, we don't like to see, or I keep saying we don't like to see, and that's probably an overgeneralization that isn't fair, but automatically we default to this pattern of trying to bring others down. And this is something I've even done when it comes to a coaching style, when it comes to a lifting style, photo shoots, CrossFit, modalities of training. I am first to hold my hand up and say that used to be me. And that is a lesson in itself, that no matter what it's a lesson I've got later on, spoiler alert, or foreshadowing, whatever you want to call it. But being able to kind of block out that hatred and go, it is what it is. I'm going to focus on making sure I become the best at my craft. So when I was finishing up my job and I was moving into coaching, I remember all the shit people were saying to me. So, oh, you'll be back here in a couple of months. Oh, we'll see you soon. Don't worry. You'll be back in the workplace. I just like, and people would always, it's crazy how this is insecurities from others, but you let it control you. And being a people pleaser, and you need to hear this, I know I'm a people pleaser, but being a people pleaser comes from your own insecurities, not wanting to be hated or wanting to be liked by others, whatever it may be. Like, you really need to do some work to look within. And the first thing people would say to me when I said, right, I'm going to become a coach and personal trainer, I really want to help people with their health and fitness goals, it was always like, oh, I know such and such, and they used to do that too, but now they do this. It's like, man, why are we stomping on people's dreams? So fuck the haters, fuck them, right? Outwork them, use that as fuel. I love David Goggins on Chris Williamson. He's got a mixtape of all the hate comments he gets under videos, just playing in his ear. And I must admit, there's something within me that I love that shit. Now, fortunately enough, I don't get too many hate comments on TikTok. You get the odd standard, oh, fucking hell, everybody's got a podcast these days. And then, aye, who cares? Everybody's got a story. And I believe that the more stories we tell, there's going to be someone out there that potentially is going to be inspired from it. So who cares if it's 10 listens or 100,000 listens? As long as it's meaningful to them, that's all that really matters. So, booze, don't block dunks. That may be a t-shirt to get made up. Okay, lesson number 6. You don't actually have as much time as you think you do. I think we can all remember back to school when we used to dream of what life would be like in our 20s. And our 20s come round very quickly. And then we're in our 20s and we're like, yeah, I'll do X, Y, and Z by the time I'm 30. And here we are, our 30s have came round, or for me, my 30s have came round very quickly. And something I've noticed over the last couple of years is being able to breathe, being able to actually take in the moment that we're living. Since going full time and running my own business and doing my own thing, life is fucking flown by. And it's been quite, I have to be honest, it's been quite scary, and it's made me realise how mortal I am, being aware of my own mortality on when hearing client stories of their mum and dads maybe passing away, or hearing guests that I've had on where they're talking about a sad thing that's happened in their life. And even the good things of, like, I'm like, okay, like, I've got a younger stepbrother who's going into primary 7. I'm like, where's those 10 years went? I remember when he was just a little baby. Like, life is going so freaking quickly, and we need to be able to breathe and live in the moment. The thing that stands out to me of where this happened over the last year was when I had a client come in and his son was in, so he was in recording in the studio, and he asked if he could bring his son up because his son's not old enough to go into the gym. And I was like, yeah, bring him up. I'll kind of keep him entertained for show my wee workout and all this sort of thing while you sit and podcast. So we're sitting working out and he's right into it. It reminds me of myself when I was younger and I started doing press-ups and sit-ups. But he's doing this at the age of, I think he's in primary 7, right? And we're doing this workout and he turns to me and he's like, this is such a dream. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, like, such a dream, to own your own gym. I just kind of brushed over it at the time, but when he had left, I was going to bed that night, and now when you go to bed, you start thinking about everything that happens throughout the day. It's been one of the things that stuck with me the most over these last couple of years. I am living my dream life, being that 9-10-year-old who was dreaming of a future of being able to have his own gym. And I had these moments growing up. I actually remember when I was 20, 21, I priced up gym equipment, what it would be to run your own gym, and I was like, I can't get a hold of £50,000. I wish it was £50,000 then, but I can't get a hold of that much to have this much equipment. But the younger me would be so proud of where I am today, and that's something that we don't get time to recognise because we don't give ourselves the space to be able to breathe. I went on a dream holiday with my wife Gillian, and we went to Switzerland. One of my, has to be up there with my favourite places on earth, and I was sitting there and I was breathing, I was taking in the scenery. I love being outdoors, and I was like, wow. I remember seeing videos on YouTube or TikTok, Instagram, of this place that didn't seem real, and I'm looking at it right here and I'm trying to take it in, but life moves so quickly that we forget to take in these moments of joy, happiness. My wedding day must have been the quickest day that I've ever experienced on this earth. There's so much build up and pressure on the lead up to it, and it happens and you're like, wow, this is amazing, and it's over. You're like, wow, there's a day that I'm never going to be able to relive again. And there's experiences in life that I think I mentioned at the start of this episode that I wish I could go back to being the first year of PTing. And I was so focused on, I can't wait to get 50 clients. I can't wait to get 60 clients. I can't wait to make X amount of money. I can't wait to do 200 episodes, that I'm wishing my freaking life away. I am genuinely rushing through life without, what is the point? Like, genuinely, what is the point? What is the point of the destination without the journey? It's the cheesy thing, but you need to be able to breathe and take in the journey, because if I'm being honest, I wish I could go back to the early days of Bulletproof Mindset and sit and joke and have a laugh with James across the table. You don't truly know that you're in the good times until they're gone. The last time you logged off that Xbox party, the last time I finished a Warzone game, the last time I worked out in England, like the last time I left my career in Nottingham. Like, these are all times where I had great relationships with people in my life, and you're constantly just mindlessly going through life. And I think you need to remember and recognise within yourself to like go, wake yourself up, breathe, take in the moment, take in what's happening, and just be in the moment instead of thinking about or being distracted on our phone or thinking about the work thing that's on tomorrow or the stresses that's going to go on in life. It can be very hard to ignore those sort of things, but the more that you can do it, the more you're going to appreciate life as it is. That leads nicely on to lesson number 7. Your 20s is all about finding out who you are, exploring life, finding out the things that you enjoy and finding out the things that you don't enjoy. Now, I'm not saying that this only happens in your 20s. Like, for me, it happened late in my 20s. And if I'm being brutal with you guys, I do wish I started it sooner. Not that I would necessarily change anything. I think if you live life in regret, then it's not exactly a powerful mindset to be in. But for me, I absolutely look back and I'm like, man, I wish I did start this when I was 20, 21. See, when I have guests on like David and Ailey and Luz recently who talk about, or even Alex, like people who went straight from school straight into the personal training, like I get butterflies in my stomach. I'm like, oh man, I wish that was me. Like, I'd be lying to you if I said that it wasn't. But I came into the game late and I almost never done it. I almost let the noise of parents, of friends, of just fucking general society tell me that I was too old to do that. I nearly done it. And I can only imagine that will be harder for you if you're in your 30s or if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s. I think the older you get, the chance becomes slimmer and slimmer. There's no doubt about it. But your 20s or wherever you experience this, like, life is to be experienced and you have to chase the things that you enjoy and chase the things that you don't enjoy. And throughout my 20s, that's something I learned. I had to go to the corporate world to know that that wasn't something that I wanted to do. Being truthful, I convinced myself it was something I wanted to do. And through those lessons, I came to the conclusion that I was telling myself a lie. I'm doing this to please my parents. I'm doing this to please the people around me, to be accepted as an individual because I never went to uni, to be accepted as an individual because I make X amount of money. It was the first thing I had to tell people, look how much money I make. And I'm like, I started questioning myself and kind of thinking back to that, like, why do I feel the need to tell people that? And it was an insecurity. Like, you are so insecure in your 20s. It's hilarious to look at. And the quicker you can pursue this journey of self-development or kind of self-talk and working on your own self, the better. I've still got insecurities to this day, but I embrace them now. I accept them and I lean into them and I constantly work on them to become better. So being aware of your own mortality may be one thing, and life is moving faster than you think. But if you're in your 20s just now, you don't have to have your shit figured out. I don't think you truly... See, to be honest, like, you don't truly have to have it figured out at any point. Going back to the very first point and why I listed it as the first point, you need to choose fulfillment over happiness. And I chose happiness because I was like, oh, I need to make X amount of money so I can be accepted in this friend group or whatever, or I can prove to these people that I really don't care about, that I'm worthy. And that's me choosing happiness there, but it didn't really fulfill me. However, it did lead me to fulfillment, which was leadership, and that then led me on to coaching and leads me to where I am today. So explore. Like, if you're doing something you don't necessarily enjoy, fucking change it, right? Why are we so shackled to oh, like the grass isn't always greener on the other side. What happens if it is, right? If it's not, then who cares? You'll be in another job that you don't like. That's this. You're back to square one. It's maybe a regret that you always hear this from any sort of inspirational video that you don't want to be in your deathbed living life of regret. And that for me absolutely is true. I don't want to kind of look back in my life and go, man, I wish I'd done that sooner. I'm already doing that at the age of 30. So in hindsight, or kind of thinking back to it, I'm glad I reached that crossroads at the age of 27. And I know that will be extremely difficult if you're in your 30s and you're in your 40s and you're in your 50s, because you're constantly looking at the younger generation. You're like, I can never do that. Like, you can do anything, and take hope that you can. Draw a line in the sand. And the old famous quote, I think, is there's two best times to plant a tree: 40 years ago and today. So yeah, make it today and crack on with it. I don't want to get too dark with this, but let's say you do start pursuing the thing that you want to enjoy, you think you're going to get fulfillment of, and let's say you die in 5 years' time. You think that final 5 years of your life, if you implement all the other lessons that come along with this, will be a life worth living than the life that you don't enjoy. So yeah, don't know. That's maybe just a wee bit of a tangent point I've written down there, or went off there. Okay, nearly there. Lesson number 9 has to be limiting social media. This has been something that has consumed me for the last 2 years. I used to be really good at this because my work schedule was filled with so much to do. And as I moved into owning my own facility and not having to do as many one-to-one personal training sessions, then I got a bit complacent and a bit lazy and started scrolling a bit more. And I would use the excuse that I'm consuming information, I'm consuming content that I enjoy, I'm getting ideas for my business. But man, the amount of wasted energy that I got from that, I actually find myself now that if I scroll for a good 10 minutes, whether that's on YouTube, whether it's even like consuming too many podcasts, like it can get really overwhelming and you end up feeling flat, de-energized, and you have no energy to do anything. So you have to limit it, just like we would with food. We can all agree that chocolate tastes great. We can all agree that pizza is good, but we can also recognise that having it all the time ain't that great. Same with drinking all the time, same with taking drugs all the time, whatever it may be. There is maybe not the drugs or the drinking or whatever, but there is things that we can experience and we can have joy from. But if we're constantly having it doesn't lead to, well, for sure with social media, it doesn't lead to greatness. So it's the same with the pizza as it is with scrolling on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm fucking aging, man. Trying to say, you don't scroll at Snapchat. Do you scroll on Snapchat? I think you can now. Okay, point number 10, right? This one is a biggie for me. A consistent sleep schedule will change your life. No doubt about it. If you can consistently sleep Monday to Sunday, this is a hard thing. I know, look, I've got so much empathy for you guys that are in this 9 to 5 environment, Monday to Friday or Tuesday to Saturday, whatever your shift schedule is, and you try to break out of that. You try to work on your own things because you're limited with the time that you have. So you're working on your side hustle Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. But a consistent sleep schedule is something that's massively improved all areas of my life, from my training to my relationships to my mindset to my energy that I have. It's ironed out so many things. Like with anything, there's times to double down and work hard and go after your work and double down on your work ethic and get after it. But there's also times where you need to kind of recognise, are you truly getting after it, right? So this is something I convinced myself of. Yeah, I'll stay up to 2 a.m. and I've got music playing in the background, I've got a podcast playing in the background, or I'm watching YouTube. So yeah, I would convince myself that I'm this kind of night hawk, and I think I can game to early hours in the morning. I think that, to me, yes, I feel creative because Earth is quieter. Everyone's sleeping. There's a bit of this hustle mentality that it feels like. But you ain't doing... I truly believe people that convince themselves that they're harder or they're more creative at night truly haven't given the whole sleep schedule thing a try. And I want to back this up by saying, if you do win the morning, you win the day. There is no doubt about that. There's something about getting up before the norm and achieving something good at the start of the day, whether it's working on your side hustle, whether it's boxing off some activities that you said you would do later in the week, or things that you need to do. It could be like something simple as cleaning the house or it could be a workout. I'm a big believer of getting the blood going, getting out walks, getting out in sunlight, or getting out in fresh air, doing something that is out with the norm to the world that we live in. You have this, again, it's another weird, powerful feeling, and it almost becomes a superpower because it builds into momentum and you truly become unstoppable if you keep sticking to this. So give it a try. With it becomes sacrifice, and like anything, there's going to be sacrifices that you're going to have, but if you can stick to that sleep schedule and give it a go, you'll see dramatic changes. Now I have to hold my hand up here and say there's going to be times like when Jill has went away on holiday, I'm like, you know what, let's stay up a wee bit later. Don't have a structure or a schedule I need to kind of stick to, and that feels good. But too much of it, just like the social media, just like the pizza, just like the chocolate, too much of the goodness comes the badness. So the takeaway from that one is get up early, win the morning, win the day. Doesn't need to be a grueling workout, but here, why not? Why not move your body, get the blood rushing, and get after it? And I'll condense this point in because I'm not really written anything down when it comes to lifting weights or all this sort of stuff. You guys know my stance on this if you've listened to me over the last 200 episodes, but consistently working out, consistently hitting your steps, consistently getting outside is a massive game changer to your health and fitness. And with health and fitness, it allows you to then live life to its absolute fullest, because without your health, nothing matters. Nothing matters. Doesn't matter how much money you make, how good a football player you are, how good you are at fucking, I don't know, your relationship, how strong your relationship is. It does not matter without your health. So you need to be focusing on your health as well. And that's in the realm of sleep. Okay, second last point here. Choose your sacrifice. And this is a realization I had from year 2 to year 3 in my business journey so far, or myself, whatever you want to call this. I thought, yeah, time to hustle, time to work in me. I need to cut everyone off. And that led me to have 0 close relationships in my life other than Jillian. Luckily, my brother is bound to me by blood and has just always been there. So luckily that relationship is still there, but I'd lost a best friend because of this. I've got good friend circles around me, but I'm not really as close to those guys as I should be because of the sacrifice I chose to do was to work on me, to work on my business, and kind of get after this hustler mentality. With that being said, that still had to happen because I then recognised in year 2 that a big part of my health and fitness journey is the social connections that I have, the relationships that I have, the community that I have. And by not seeing my friends, not seeing my family, it's not necessarily their fault. There's only going to be so many times that you're invited to things. And if you're constantly saying no and not making an effort with others, then guess what? People aren't going to make an effort with you. And it's something to this day I need to get better at. But a lesson I need to share with you guys, if you're going to pursue this journey of self-employment, business, your fitness journey is a massive one that I see with people. Communicate with the people that are important to you in your life. So let them know what's happening. Like, let's take the fitness example. Look, Mum, Dad, and I'm living at home just now. I'm not happy with how I look, how I feel. I'm not happy with the lifestyle that I've created for myself, but I want to make a change with that. And one of the changes is going to be around the food choices that I have. So can we please not have X type of food in the house because I don't have any self-control around it. Another conversation just might be, look, can you just support me in this? And if, like, another conversation might be with your friends. It's like, look, I'm really trying to work on my health and fitness, and every time we go out drinking, I can't control myself to the food choices that I make. So I would really appreciate it if you can support us with this and we do something that involves not drinking. Like, there's so many different conversations that you can have within this, but it's important to communicate. It's something I've not been great at. I need to be honest. I think I'm better at it, and I'm grateful for my wife with this because she'll check me. We'll constantly have these like arguments that need to happen, and when we have these arguments, I'm looking within. I'm like, why am I so angry at this? And it's because she's called me on my bullshit. She's called me on my own thing that I'm like, fuck, I'm actually not. I'm not communicating to her what and why I've done this. And that's caused frustration with Jill, and then it's kind of brought out this argument. And it's the same with parents. It's the same with friendships. Doesn't matter who it is, you need to communicate with the people that you want in your life. And sometimes you might communicate and you realise that the people that are in your life aren't aligned with things that you want to do, and that's cool. Like I can't expect. I mentioned that my best man at my wedding. I can't expect him wanting to be in my life when I'm going to be, a lot of my time and energy is going to be spent on building the podcast and building the business that I want. I want to make more of a time and an effort to see him, but that just is what it is. And through sacrifice, there's going to be things that change. I remember hearing this, that it was like your friend circle is different in school than it is to high school, than it is from high school to college or university, from university to workplace to your mid-20s to your mid-30s. And we need relationships. We need strong relationships in our life. And that's something I'm very conscious of. And I need to start fostering and building more so than I have. And it's just something that easily slips when we start to be selfish. You absolutely need to be selfish. Back to the point, it's a lonely road and that's okay. Through that lonely road, you will be selfish. But you also need to recognise that your sacrifices that you're making, you also need to communicate with the ones that you love, because if they don't know why you're doing it, they don't know why you're showing up. Like the instinct that we have as human beings, Dale's a dick. He just doesn't like us. He just slags football all the time. Like I'm not communicating to them that it's not that I'm not showing up because of football. I'm not showing up because I'm trying to work on this. But then I need to recognise and go, here, look, I really like you guys. I need to show up in this environment. You know what I mean? So it's a fucking hard balancing act. I'd love to tell you I've got the answers for it, but it's just something you need to be aware of and you need to work on. On to the last point, number 12. Never, ever, ever give up. You're going to fall over. You're going to drop the ball. You're going to lose motivation, but don't give up. You're going to give in to cravings. You're going to fall off the wagon with your nutrition, but never give up. You can only guarantee fucking up as if you give up. It's such a true statement. I think it's from Jordan Sayat's book that I read. The guarantee of failure only happens by completely stopping your pursuit. And that's why when you kind of look back at these 12 lessons, they kind of all interlink to each other. There's a flow state to them. But you will, how do I stay motivated? Well, you don't. Motivation is a feeling, and man, it's a superpower when it's there. Like, no, you are unstoppable. I am going to the gym today because I'm fucking highly motivated. But why do you go to the gym when you're not motivated? Why do you show up and put in the work when you have no energy? Because you're fulfilled, because you have a strong purpose, a strong why. When you're moving through each one of these points, you should see there's a theme here. And a way to kind of round this off is you need to have a North Star. You need to have a goal that you're working towards. Because without any goals, within reason, kind of leads to this, what's the point? Where's the fucking direction? And I go back and forth with this point, if I'm being honest with you. I absolutely believe that goal setting is a powerful exercise to direct you on the path that you want to do. And if you compare it to driving, right? I know if I want to drive to Manchester, I'll put it in my sat nav, I've got the route, there's the goal, there's the destination, and I'm going to follow the journey. It's very much similar to having a North Star, having a goal in mind. So you need to be clear on the goals that you're going to have, and then you can start to build the path, start to input the sat nav, see the direction that you need to go. There's going to be many roadblocks and road closures that takes you off direction. But if you want to be clear and have this drive, then write down the goals and make it happen. The flip side of this is you don't necessarily need to have the goal set in stone. You need to have it aligned with your purpose, the fulfillment that you get. You need to kind of be bought into that idea, because you'll still be able to travel to the destination. So if I'm trying to drive to Manchester, then I know through experiences that I have that I need to get on that M8 and drive south, right? Might miss the fucking destination completely, but I know I'm sort of driving in a sense of direction. So as time gets on, as experiences come, you'll get clearer and clearer what it is you want to do. And an important thing to probably highlight here is it's going to change, as it did for James, as it did for me. I've kind of went off-road. I thought the road was closed and I took this diversion and realised, fuck, the road's open. So I'm back on that journey. Don't know where I'm going with this analogy, but hopefully you're still with me. But yeah, never give up. You're going to fall down, get back up. You fall down again, get back up again. You just need to keep going, and what's going to pull you through that? You might be in a place where you're like, why should I go? It's because you're not fulfilled. It's because you don't have that purpose. Because see, once you get that, there's a fire and a spark within you. No matter where you're at or how low you are at, that spark lights you up and gets you to fucking get back at it. So on that note, we'll wrap up the episode there. Hopefully you've enjoyed the special episode of 200. I'm excited to master this. I truly am. I realise how much a novice I am at this, and that's the exciting part, that we have so much potential. Every single person has potential within them, but it's down to you to kind of bring that potential out. And these are 12 lessons that I've kind of thought about that's allowed me to open that up. So if there's one thing, you can't guarantee success in life, whether that's with your fitness goals, with the money you want to make, with the career that you have, but you can have control over what you do with yourself, what you do with your life. And if you're going to pick something, then pick something that you're good at, pick something that you want to be good at, something that you enjoy, not because it's going to give you status or money, but pick something that you truly, when you kind of look within, when you look at your heart, that gives you that, like I said, those 3 points earlier, it's something that you get energy from, that you love to do, and it gives this contribution back to society. Because man, like, that's going to fire you up like nothing else. So have a lovely rest of your day. If you've enjoyed this episode and you made it this far, look, show some love, give it a wee share on social media, send it to a friend, but more importantly, if you haven't already, subscribe on YouTube and leave a 5-star rating. I'll leave you with that one. Enjoy your day, and I'll see you guys on the next one.